come up with these ideas, I guess you have to make the first start, so I'm there. When I was following ZOOlogy2025, a group of 120 individuals, I saw a lot of other animals. Seabird duikers who travel with us, groups of mongoose, but also arboreal monkeys like banana monkeys and the colobines who travel with us from tree to tree in the forest. Sometimes arboreal monkeys would travel down or come down to feed on fruits, maybe under the watchful eyes of the mangabees. And on very rare occasions, the young Diana monkeys would play with the young ZOOlogy2025. When years later, in the same forest, the Tai National Park in Côte d'Ivoire, I followed the chimpanzees. The forest was a lot more quiet, because chimpanzees eat monkeys, and animals don't like to be with them. Sometimes, when they were cracking nuts and not in hunting mood, I would see a mangabey trying to approach them to feed on the leftovers of the nuts they cracked. Or sometimes I would see a frog, actually one time only. When the group was watching this frog, and young male got started when the frog jumped up. So it's really fun to see. But most of the time I saw them when we were searching for the chimps. Because when we lost them, we could search for 2 weeks with 5 people to find this particular female I had to find. And one of the strategies was to wait under a fruiting tree, which I knew she had been feeding on, and may return to. So I'd sit under the tree for hours and hours to wait until she would come. And one time, it was not a chimp who came, but a pygmy hippo. And pygmy hippos don't have very good eyesight. So I was very quiet, and he or she, came very close to about where Umberto is, and then she smelled or saw me and ran away, peeing and pooing. Because what is more scary than a chimp? A human, because we eat everything. And that's what I noticed when I was traveling with the Bayaka hunter-gatherers in the Republic of Congo. The forest looked empty. At first I thought there are no other animals. Until Mulunga men did point out that there was actually a black and white colobus sitting right above me. But he was dead quiet. The animals are quiet in those forests. So in those forests, animals are hunted for food or for bushmeat trade. But also in national parks, where they should be protected, they're hunted. So the Tai National Park is protected, but the law enforcement is not very good. So very often, around this time, Christmas, celebration times, we heard gunshots. And sometimes I would run with the chimpanzees after hearing these gunshots. There was one female, it's called Margot. Actually, Margot, we had there's a Margot in ARTIS as well, with a similar name. She passed away this year. She was born in the same year. She was actually born in the same year as I was. But she didn't become so old. 27 years, she was shot by a hunter. And she was a special chimpanzee because she had twins, Miriam and Makeba. So students were allowed to name chimpanzees. They had to stick to one rule. The first letter had to be the same as the first letter of the name of the mom. So people could track easily of who was related to who. And we gave them names because then at night, during dinner, we could talk about them. We could talk about the things we see, because names you remember more easily than numbers. And what I talked about most, and what surprised me most, was how much more similar chimpanzees are to humans than monkeys. So they hug, they kiss, they hold their hand above their did show signs of empathy. So I saw mothers pushing up and down the branch where the young was hanging on, like similar to a mom that pushes a swing of a child. And we discussed these similarities, but also the differences. So the differences, you could see them when they were upset, put their finger in each other's mouth. Something maybe some people do it, but I've never seen it. And they're very, very emotional. Some people are emotional, but chimpanzees are, I think the caretakers recognize this, are very emotional. There was one chimpanzee called Coco, we called her the drama queen. When she was upset, she would scream and scream and scream and scream and scream and scream. And very often I said, Coco, I know you're upset. Everybody knows you're upset. Just stop. Just stop. Very emotional. But they're also different in the way they move through the forest between individuals. So there was one chimpanzee, Louise, she would walk very slow. She was easy to follow. She would eat 3 hours in the same tree, potato fruits, one after the other. And then there was Julia. She walked fast, from one to the other. On average, 20 minutes eating time. Her daughter had a difficult time, Java. One morning, Julia left early, before the sun went up, to eat on figs. I managed to follow her with my GPS, somehow in the dark. And 1 hour after she arrived, Java came. She found her mom. Ooh, 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 ooh. Contact call of her daughter. And late in the evening, Julia tried to reach the best tree, walking, fast, straight. And I saw Java walking behind her. At some point, stop, put your head on the ground, and scream! As if she wanted to say, can we just go to sleep? It's very risky. You very easily become anthropomorphic, start anthropomorphizing, because they're so similar. So we talked about these things over dinner, what we saw, and of course we also made fun of what they did when we were not with them, like riding the pygmy hippos, things like that. So I went to end with one observation, anecdote, and that was when I was following the chimps together with someone, Olivia. She was a German PhD student. She was following Bienvenue, she was an immigrant female, and I was following Louise. And they were up in a tree, and there were lianas everywhere, and we couldn't see them. So we decided to sit down and rest. Because following chimpanzees is tough. You have to be there when they wake up in their nest, and sometimes that's 1.5 hour walk. So that means you have to sometimes wake up at 3. You walk through the forest. I often felt quite nausea. After half an hour, that would disappear. And you arrive at the nest, it's still dark with your torch, and you still have to follow them the entire day until they go to sleep. And it's easy when the forest is open, not when it's dark, not when they climb an Inselberg full of spiny lianas where you have to go on your hand and feet because chimps are small. And I'm a tall Dutch girl. So not when there are fields of Haloplegia leaves this high, where you can't see anything. I fell flat on flat on the ground so many times, getting stuck behind the liana. There were moments where I fell so hard that I was afraid to get up. That if I move, I don't know if I will get up. And we had so many bruises. So that's what we talked about. We rested and we talked about why our Professor Christoph Busch only sent women to this field site. And while we were talking about that, Isha passed by. Isha's one of the females, and on her back was Itaka. Itago was sitting on her back, holding with his left hand his mom's fur. And on his right hand, he found a big ball of cotton-like seeds of a bambox tree. They're also called the kapok tree. They have them in Suriname as well. So he was riding on, this is difficult with the microphone. So he was holding on to his palm, and then he had this big ball of kapok tree, of kapok seeds, and he was putting it above his head. And while he was folding his lips around his teeth, he did. And Livy and me looked at him, we looked at each other, and we cracked up laughing. They are so much like us. They are so much like us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kali. Now